Hello and welcome back to part 8 of the Corvette video restoration diary series thing, and thank you so much for coming along. I had my Fiero in the garage for most of 2020 because I was painting the hood and the fender on it. Now that I finally got that out of the garage, I can put the Corvette in the garage for 2021. It's winter right now, so my hope is to get a bunch of these bugs worked out of the car and finally turn this thing into a daily driver here in 2021. Well, I really appreciate you guys hanging out for the journey so far. This isn't going to be the longest video that I've made so far on the Corvette restoration. I have just been super busy the last couple months actually working on a lot of my other projects and the Corvette as well, and I just haven't had the time to work on the video. Plus, hey, check this out. I did some fun work on my wall again, so it's slowly starting to turn into more of a real thing in here. But this still takes a lot of time, so I'll have some good content in this video, but it's going to be not as long as the last couple that I've had. But I'll try to get back to that half-hour mark eventually again. I figured since it's been a couple months, it'd be better to get something out instead of nothing. So let's start digging into getting the C4 up and running and into a daily driver. The last thing that is bothering me is the electrical gremlins in my interior. The seat does not move, and the electrical mirrors, they don't work, they don't move either. The thing that both of these things have in common is I need to rip apart the whole center console to get to this area, to get to the switches and test them on both the seats and the mirrors. So I might as well do both at the same time. Right now the seat is stuck all the way back in its furthest back position. Unfortunately, other people cannot drive the car if they're not tall, so that means no women. I can barely even touch the pedal with my toe. So to fix that, I need the seat to move. Step 1, remove the seat. I have a whole separate video on how to do this if you want to see the whole process. So go ahead and click the card or check for a link in the description. When I did this the first time I removed the seat out, because I've done it several times now, I didn't know how to get the seat bottom off. It's actually pretty easy to get that seat bottom off, and I don't know why there are such terrible videos out there on that process that don't show how to do it. Once the seat bottom cover is off, it's super easy to get to those rear bolts. But I couldn't figure out how to do it the very first time I messed with my seat. So of course, that means that I did it the really hard way and removed the bolts from the back of the seat. Don't do it this way, because it's way hard to get your hands in there unless you have teeny tiny child hands. Mine are medium size, and it was very difficult to get them down in there. It's also really hard to see anything because you have to do it all by touch. It's not impossible to do it this way, but there's actually no reason to do it this way. Just pull your lower seat cover off, and I can't think of any reason why that lower seat cover can't be removed. After all that hard work to remove the rear screws the wrong way and the hard way, the whole seat just came right out. Step 2. Are the switches sending power to the seat? What I'm basically doing is just testing the wires and not the switches at this point. But the switches might be good and the wires might be bad. Highly improbable, but let's check it anyways. Once I had the seat out, I just checked the wire connector. I looked at the wiring diagram, looked at the two colors that were going to the motor, hooked up my multimeter to those two colors, and moved the switch. And every time I tried to move the switch in every direction, nothing happened. I think one direction worked, but it's a 6-way switch, so it definitely didn't test out properly. Well, it was worth the try, so my seat is not getting power to this plug. That could still mean that the wire harness is bad or the switches are bad. It's more than likely that the switches are bad, but I have to rip out the rest of the dash to get to those and start testing those next. I also need to test the seat to see if I can put power to it and if anything happens. So that's what I'm going to check next. Step 3, testing the seat motors. I have a detailed video posted on how to do all this testing. So I'll give you the short version here. So you can click on the card up in the corner or check out the description if you want to see the longer version of this video. Basically, 3 seats came with a C4. You have the standard seats, which are the manual seats. You have the power seats, which, that is what I have. And you also have the power seats with additional lumbar support. So there's basically 3 seats you can get. The standard seat, the optional power seat, and the super optional lumbar support seat. What I have is the first optional seat for my C4. So I guess you can call it the standard power seat, and that's what I have. Both the standard stock seat and the power seat use the same seats. The only difference between the two is they have the different rails on the bottom. One is the manual rail and the other one is the power rail. For the standard power seat, there are 3 motors in the electrical part of it underneath. One motor moves the seat back and forth, forward and back. The other 2 motors control the up and down movement. The front motor does the front up and down, and the back motor does the back up and down, and together they raise the whole seat up and down all at once. And you can control each movement independently. The first check is to do an ohm check to see if the motors have an open in them. Basically, electrical motors are one big giant wire connected on the inside of them, and if that wire is not connected, nothing's going to happen. So if it passes that test, I can go ahead and apply power to it to see if it moves in both directions. So there's 6 wires underneath here. They're kind of a mess. The easiest way to do it is just check out each motor individually and follow the wires to that plug. Each motor has 2 wires that go to the plug. Just follow those wires from the motor to the plug so you can identify each pair. Now you can apply power to each one of the pairs and see if they move. I just use a motorcycle battery for this test. You'll need to figure out a similar method to get 12 volts to your seat. If the motor moves in one direction, then reverse the polarity to test to see if it goes in the other direction. Do this test for each pair of wires on each motor and see what happens. On mine, the motors were good, but the gears were all torn up. Motor's fine. So what I just figured out is if I reposition this thing, the thing that's spinning into the gears, yeah, see, now it moves. So that's not good. Unfortunately, there's no source that I could find for these gears the last time that I checked. Someone is obviously making these because they can be repaired, and you can buy seat assemblies with brand new gears inside of them. But I couldn't find someone that just sold the gears by themselves. If you find one, please let me know in the comments, and that way we can share this information with other C4 people, and that way they don't have to get the whole entire seat rebuilt. So the way that I had to fix mine was buy a whole rebuilt motor and gear assembly off of eBay. And it was, I think it was around $220 to get that sent to me. And that was without a core. Well, unfortunately, the news with the seat motors wasn't great, but it's actually not that bad to get it fixed. Like I said, it's only a couple $100-ish to get the motor part of the seat resolved, but I still have to worry about the switches and the wiring. I have a more detailed video of this whole process as well, and just check out the link if you want to see that. So the abbreviated version. First, you need to remove the dash cluster cover. So where the dash is, where your instrument panel is, that bezel needs to come off. Then you have to remove the center dash cover bezel. That needs to come off. Then you need to remove the lower one in the center as well, the lower center one. Before you remove that, you have to get the gear shift knob out of the way, and you have to get the center console cover out of the way first, so you should probably do that first, and then you can get the center bezel cover off. And that's all the easy steps so far. Then make sure your seat is out. Once your seat is out, you can remove the whole side panel. The side panel really needs to come off, and you really should do both sides if you don't want to break anything on the skeleton thing. There's little pins, and you might actually break some of those pins like I did. So it's really safer to remove both sides of this bezel, the side cover. Now we can finally get to the middle part, the skeleton of the center console. Once you have that part out, you can finally get to some of these switches. You can get to the wand switch for the mirrors, and you can finally get to the seat switches as well. Make sure that you unclip the hatch switch first, and then the whole skeleton, that will just come right out. This took me about 2 hours just to get this little part of it out. The whole entire job, it's a good chunk of a day. Not super hard, but it's time consuming. Then once I had that out, I tested the switches and the wires, because you never know, it might actually be the wires. So check out the how-to videos if you want to see that. My wand switch for the mirrors, that ended up being bad, and my seat harness and the switches, so both my wires and the switches for the seat, both of those were bad, so I needed to replace all that stuff. Well, that didn't go well with all the electrical stuff. It was pretty much worst case scenario for everything. Almost everything needed to be replaced except for the motors in the mirrors. Those so far are still working. Now let's get one more thing done on the seat. Now that I got the electrical part of the seat figured out and I know what to replace, there is still a mechanical part inside the seat that I really don't know what it does. After looking at how this piston spring thing is hooked up, I figured out it's the part that makes it recline and then snap back forward. Some people don't even realize that the seat moves like this because the motor tilts the seat back, but this moves the seat back independent of the motors. Mine was completely frozen and did not move. So what I had to do was I sat in the seat, pulled the lever, and pushed back on the seat back as hard as I could, and then it finally did move. Once it was in the far back position, I put some graphite lube on it, and then I repeated that process a few times and got the rust all cleared out of it. And now it works all on its own. So now when the seat is all the way back, it will snap forward when you pull on the lever. There's also another lever behind the seat, and that lets you push it even further forward if you would like to put stuff in the cargo area. Well, that's everything that I wanted to show you for part 8. Now, like I said, it's a little bit shorter, but don't worry. I have a ton more content coming up for 2021, plus driving it, and then all the way through the winter, and then that adventure actually continues into 2022. So there's quite a few more videos to come, and that's why that's actually taking me longer to get all these done, because there's a lot more content to go through. The next video series in part 9, we're really going to get into one of my favorite new subjects, and that is plastic welding, because since I got all this plastic part, and before I put it back together with all these cracks and things broken, let's get there and put it together right without gluing the heck out of it, because glue is not the answer. Plastic welding is. And we'll get into that with the next episode. So thanks again for hanging out, you guys. I really super appreciate it. Have a fantastic day. Happy seafaring.